everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy scoping out. I'm so glad you're here joining me at 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time on Scoping Out. Yeah, I've got some wonderful people. We've been chatting a little bit before this all got started. Beautiful people who are here to find out how to have life be less scary, right? Yes, this is so fun. I hope you're following me at Triffany Hammond on Twitter, or you can learn more about me at triffanyhammond.com. I have to say, I've been, the weight of the Orlando shooting and everything has been sitting on my heart, and for a lot of different reasons. And I saw a little video the other day of this dog. This sweet little dog that had clearly not been treated well, kind of cornered up in the corner of his pen, and this really sweet person was trying to rescue it. It looked like a puppy mill or something like that. And the dog was huddled up and he was barking, and every time the person who was trying to save him, trying to do good things for him, would turn around, the puppy would turn around and bite and nip and cower and whine, and it was just the saddest thing. And what this person did for this dog was absolutely beautiful. She sat there. She just sat there with the dog, made herself present and available in loving kindness to this dog who saw everything around it as something terrifying, something scary, right? And in that loving, safe place, of course, yeah, I know, it's sad. These poor animals, who's out there advocating for them, right? Well, she was, and she sat there in this loving place. And eventually the dog calmed down and allowed her to touch it. And obviously, it was one of those beautiful stories where the transformation happened soon after that. And it really is, it's a wonderful, gorgeous story. But what had to happen in that very first stage, when all the dog could see around it was threats, all the dog could see around it was fear. What had to happen in that first moment was to have somebody come in and see the dog and meet the dog exactly where it was. She wasn't expecting the dog to understand she was there to help. She wasn't expecting the dog to overcome its own fear. She wasn't expecting the dog to meet her where she was. You understand? She was expecting the dog to be the dog. And I was watching this video and I was thinking, boy, wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't that be wonderful if we could do that? Yeah, for each other. And it's easy to do when it's close-knit family. It's easy to do when it's, your teenager and you're like, I know this isn't who you are. This is adolescent craziness and I'm not going to hold you to that. But what happens when it's somebody with a gun in Orlando? Somebody with a gun in an elementary school? What happens when we are so inundated with the violence perpetuated by other people's fear that we become fearful ourselves? What happens when we no longer create that nice, safe space that lady held and instead dive into the fear as well? Because she had options, didn't she? She could have gone in there and been just as afraid of the dog as the dog was of her, and it would have created a completely different dynamic. And it would have ended up being who was stronger, who had more resources, who had the bigger gun, right? And what's happening in our social media right now is we're seeing threats everywhere. They're put in front of us all of the time, constantly in our awareness. And while that's not inherently a bad thing, because of course we want to know what's going on in our world, and of course we want to know how we can help those people who are victimized and how we can be a presence of change and advocacy and love and light in the world, right? We need to know where the darkness is if we want to bring light to those spots. So it's not like we want to stick our head in the sand and pretend this doesn't exist. But our jobs as light keepers, our job as love bringers, right, is to remember that that's not the whole story. That's not even the bulk of the story. I bet you anything, and I haven't seen statistics on it, so I'm not even going to throw out numbers, but I bet you anything, percentage-wise, the people who currently live in a state of violence and ugliness and fear and darkness and hatred, the percentage of people is probably about the same as it was 50, 60, 100 years ago. We have a lot more people, and we have a really fast, ready, easy access way to get their stories out into the world. Right? It used to be if something happened in the middle of Arkansas, maybe that made it to the Arkansas newspaper, but it sure didn't make it to New York. Sure as hell didn't make it out to France. Nobody was hearing about these spots where darkness was happening, where fear was a culprit in something that made existence dangerous for people, right? So now we have this proliferation. Now we have this idea that darkness is around every single corner. But I bet you anything the percentage is the same. Which means we still are overcome by light and love all of the time. We are still overcome and enjoy peace, calm in our collective consciousness most of the time. It's just that people aren't reporting that. And when they do, it still comes on the heels of some tragedy. But think about like traffic. Okay, yeah, there are accidents sometimes. How many days do you get to and from work with no accidents? Most of the people are happy to share the road, are happy to follow the rules because it makes all of us safe. But we don't get to work every single day going, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky. I live in a place that has safe highways and safe drivers and safe cars and well-lit roads at night. No, we don't arrive in this celebration of the things that are working right in our world, right? We arrive with the frustration that maybe somebody cut us off, or maybe we were late, or maybe the sun was on our eyes and we had to drive more slowly, right? It's that negativity bias. You've heard me talk about it before. I have a bad habit. I try not to do it though. You know what? Okay. I'm so glad you said that, Purple Haze, because let me tell you something. And this is something we've talked about before. It is a habit, that's true, and it can be rewired, as you said. Practice on it. But the first thing I want you to do is have grace with yourself about this. Because everybody comes pre-wired with what we call a negativity bias. It's one of the many cognitive biases that our brain uses to defend itself. Yeah, so you get this, right? So it's not your fault. These gunmen that show up in fear, it's not their fault either. And this is the whole point. I mean, yes, they made the choice. We're going to get there in a second. But the whole point is we all come pre-wired. It is a personal bad habit, especially once you know better, right? Progress, not perfection. If you bring consciousness to it and you're trying to work on it, it's already improving. It's already getting better. You're already giving your subconscious belief a body of proof that it isn't always true, that negativity bias isn't always true. And over time, with repetition of that practice, you do get to a place where your habit has changed. You do get to a place where you celebrate. People are pretty friggin' amazing. People are pretty kind, pretty accommodating. Can you share what it is? Absolutely share. This is all for you. And if you're going through it, other people are too. I'm going to blither away while you type that in. Absolutely. So the first thing we want to do when we're going through this and we're identifying where our work is, as Purple Haze is talking about, right? We're identifying where our work is to not come at ourselves with the critical talk. We haven't done anything wrong. We've just shown up human, right? Don't ban me if I say, okay? If it's really inappropriate, I might. I don't know. But go ahead. Shoot it out there. We'll see. The chances are good it's something other people are going through too. So what we want to do then is we want to exercise grace with ourselves first and understand we are at every single moment doing our best. We assume positive and we are in our own minds. We know we don't mean ill, right? The more we have grace and forgiveness for ourselves and our own ills, the more we bring love and light to ourselves, the more we banish that darkness. And we see that the darkness was an illusion anyway. It was a shadow caused by the light. It was a reflection of something else. And what begins to happen is that, well, we'll see. We'll see, Purple Haze. I want to help you though, so I hope you do put it in there. What will happen is you become, as I was talking to Purple Haze about it, that subconscious belief begins to shift and you become this more compassionate human being. Not in acts of compassion, not in conscious acts of compassion outwardly, but as a state of being. So before you know it, you're showing up and that rude person in the grocery line or that rude person that cut you off, you're nonplussed by it anymore. Suddenly you're not holding that judgment because you assumed positive intent in yourself and you begin to see them the same way. They're fallible. They're human. They make mistakes. They get angry. They get tired. Their coping mechanisms wear out, right? And when we show up to them without judgment, with kindness, we change the energy. We change the energy in our interaction. At least with us, at least in that one time, in that moment, maybe they didn't feel judged. They didn't feel on defense, right? At least in that one moment, we were able to provide an opportunity for them to create a body of proof. for their subconscious belief that the world is actually kind, right? Now, whether they're aware of it or whether they do their work on it, that's not our lane. We don't have any control over that. But we at least brought that opportunity for them. And the more of us that do this work, the more we create these opportunities, the more that body of proof, that evidence that things are actually kind and light and loving in this world becomes undeniable. So that people who really do have mental health issues, people who really do have anger issues, people who really are afraid, like that little dog was, that the world is against them, that everything in the world is to be feared, right? The people who hold that suddenly only have space for that love. They are suddenly understood. They're suddenly listened to. They begin to let down their guard and talk about these things and seek help. It happens all the time. And if we could keep statistics on what doesn't happen, Purple Haze, okay, has a little addiction. Let's talk about that. I'm going to keep blithering while you give me the rest. What happens is, with that repetition, right, we create this environment that allows a safe place, just like that dog needed a safe place to calm down. We create the environment that is safe for people to show up and safe for people to bring their fears, their negativity bias, their confirmation bias, all the things that they've been judging themselves for out into the open. That dog needed a safe place to be a dog, a fearful, scared dog. So our job as love bringers, as light bringers, is to create that safe space. Is it always going to work out? Is that dog always going to calm down? Is that fearful person always going to use that opportunity well or in mutual kindness? Maybe not. But that's not our lane. Every time we feel wronged by them, every time we feel like that was a lost opportunity, that is our chance to practice forgiveness, love, compassion, and kindness. Because we need that bolstered in ourselves as well, right? So when you begin to see this, oh, did you think I was going to ban you for a sex addiction? Oh, honey, maybe we need to talk offline then. Yeah. Let me talk about addiction here in just a minute. I'm going to finish this thought and we'll get back to that. What we need when we are feeling fearful ourselves, when we're feeling afraid ourselves, what we most need is to be able to look at everything in our lives as an opportunity for growth. You can private message me either through my website at triffanyhammond.com or through Twitter at Triffany Hammond. Just remember, Triffany is like Tiffany with an R. Okay, there's a little R in there. What we want to do then is look at our world as though it's giving us exactly what we need. So when we are affecting change in someone, Purple Haze came here today and felt, for whatever reason, came here, felt safe, and is sharing the work that Purple Haze is working on. That right there is a magnificent gift, right? A gift to themselves, a gift to me, and a gift to this audience here now who's watching this going, ooh, maybe I have something that I need to shed light on. It's Triffany, just like Tiffany with an R, Hammond.com. Would love to hear from you through there. And when we begin to change our mindset that everything serves us, when it happens positively, obviously we're going to feel positive about it, right? Now we're going to shine our light and our attention on what is working well and what is going well. We're going to pay attention to that. That is wonderful and that is beautiful. And when it has the appearance of going wrong, maybe somebody isn't open to our love. Maybe they call us a hypocrite. Maybe they go off the rails for whatever reason and it looks wrong or we feel misunderstood. If we're triggered into a negative emotion ourselves, that's our chance to work on it. It's still a gift. That's our chance to practice letting go, practice forgiveness, practice compassion. They've still given us a gift. And the more we do this and the more we practice this and we stay in this practice of love, light, positivity, the more we are able to show up for the people who really do need us, for the people who need to see a body of proof that people can be kind and compassionate even when they're being a jerk, especially when they're being a jerk, right? And that models for them, that shows them that there's another way to live, that gives them the tools. Now I want to clear something up before I go because I know this is starting to run a little bit long here. This is not about sticking your head in the sand and pretending like the bad doesn't exist. We're talking instead about using the bad, right? It's all good because it all serves. But we're talking about using that pain. We're talking about using it to our advantage, either practicing in ourselves or as an opportunity to come to someone else and create that safe space for them. So it's not about denial. The other thing I want to clear up is that this is not about being a doormat. Honey, we all try. That's why it's a practice, right? We're constantly in practice and we don't always get it right. I don't always get it right. I have the longest fuse in the world and I still will lose my temper sometimes. It happens. We are fallible. We are human. That is the very reason why this limited human existence serves our best good, because the only way we get a chance to practice patience is if we feel impatient. The only chance we have to practice grace is if we feel imposed upon. The only chance we have to practice forgiveness and letting go is if we feel like we've been wronged. We don't get a chance to practice and develop and hone and condition the wonderful things inside of ourselves if we don't have the outside circumstances to help us practice it. So we are all trying. We're all just doing our best. Well, we'll work on it together then. We'll figure it out. And that last piece, this isn't about being a doormat either. It's not about letting people walk all over you. You can create that safe space for people. And if they take advantage, if they treat you poorly, and we're going to talk about this, we're going to go into this deeper next week, Wednesday, 8:30 at this scoping out, right? We're going to go in a little bit deeper about not being a doormat, about what self-advocacy looks like when you're coming from a place of love. Because it needs to look different than that fearful, I'm protecting myself, right? Why do we have such a proliferation of guns in our society? Because we live in fear. We've come to believe that self-advocacy is having more firing power than the other people, right? We've come to believe that self-advocacy is might makes right. You're not being inappropriate, Purple Haze. If you need help, that's what I'm here for. We'll figure it out together. Not at all. Not at all. There's no shame. No shame, right? How perfect, actually, that you're here. How perfect that you're here on a day that I'm talking about bringing light when the world seems scary, right? How perfect that you and your gorgeous vulnerability are showing up to this scope today. And sharing with the world the thing about yourself that scares you, sharing with the world the thing about yourself that you're working on. It's actually quite perfect because we get to show by example, you and I together, that we can show up fallible, imperfect, flawed, and we can still be in service in a loving, kind, and light way. So for the rest of you, I hope this has been helpful. If you're watching this on the video, please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, YouTube.com/Triffany Hammond. Obviously, remember that R in there, right? If you are a lovely member, come to group coaching today at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. If you're a conscious transition student, next week is office hours, and I hope to see you there. And remember, I've got that fail to win, going from fail to win, where fail stands for all is love. It's like a masterclass in forgiveness and love and compassion. That's starting up in September, so make sure you're signed up for that too. And that's what I've got for today. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for the interaction and the gorgeous vulnerability. I know this stuff isn't easy. I know it's hard, but the world is wonderful, beautiful, and so are you. And I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.